Hi, guys. Live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. I guess Mike didn't know the cue. Here we are in the studio, and Mike is here. Welcome to the AZ, and welcome to the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Right. I thought you were supposed to read it, Saul, because you're the one in Studio K. I apologize.
You usually do it, so I just kind of...
Well, either way, you know what? We needed a great reliever, Mariano Rivera from the bullpen. We thank you, Saul Bookman. We have a lot to get to today, though. Saul Bookman coming to you live from Studio K. All right. This is day one post PJF, post Jacob Franklin, and we have the great Shane Diefenbach in there. Kevin Thomas transitioning in there. But first, Saul, we got to talk about this outfit. I love this outfit. Is this new? Where did you get this? Talk about this.
The hat is actually new, and I've been trying to figure out ways to wear it. So I had to look at what I had in my arsenal, and so then I saw this shirt, and I was like, "Oh, it kind of matches." So and then I did bring in the shoes too,
dude,
because you have to coordinate. So this is actually a State 48 polo. They do a good job over there. Shout out to the folks at State 48.
Have you always been a classy dresser?
I would like to say that I think I am the best dresser in the office.
Okay. All right.
I put together fits with intention.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I do not. All I care about is the inner circle hat and things like that.
This is how not Mike does dress. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mike, but I do remember us going out to a reasonably fancy restaurant. I wouldn't say fancy, but Best Friend in Vegas is a little bit more upscale than your usual, right? Right. Mike was wearing a polo and shorts, and I said, Mike, are you really going to wear those shorts? I mean, it just looks like you just threw it on together. He was like, there's nothing wrong with this. It's Mike's favorite pair of shorts because I've seen him wear these numerous times. I was like, Mike, there's literally a tear on the backside. And he looked, he's like, oh, I thought they were different shorts. So then he went and changed.
I have 4 pairs of blue mesh shorts, and those are generally my workout ones. And I had those for me when I would go on my morning walks. I felt very embarrassed because that place, let's be honest here, Saul, I do have some pride. That was not a place that I should have been wearing those shorts. Thank you.
I didn't know if you really did have that much pride or not in your outfits.
Now I do have a little bit of pride, and that was a little bit too far. Okay. Now, we got a lot of questions coming in. We're going to go to Arizona defense. We're going to get to trap games. We're going to talk about the Arizona basketball front court, Nikolas Khamenia, but everybody's asking me about it. I'm not going to get into details. There will be no more Camp Chronicles. We're not allowed to report on the specifics of practice. That's a bummer. Very much enjoyed going to practice and being able to talk about it. It is what it is. I'm not going to really get into it. People can figure out what they want to figure out with this. But yes, we won't be able to report on it. We can still go, but
I will say something.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a certain protocol that you have to abide by. It is what it is. Whether we like it or not, those are the rules. And we're talking about sports. We're not talking about national defense. So abide by the rules and just let it go. Otherwise, you shouldn't be going to cover practice, because if the team doesn't want you to talk about X, Y, and Z, or things happen that, that they're trying to make sure that it's not, and listen, preventative measures are not just about like censoring the media. It's also because of the kid. And there are things that are, that are related to personal medical issues that don't need to be out there at all. And that's why they want to make sure that they have clearance to give information out. And it's just not fair. And it's unfortunate for all the ones that just abide by the rules, but it is what it is.
A guy on Twitter put this really well. We don't need to be Carl Bernstein on every single issue. Some things we can just let go and report on what we see. I think that's a very good way of putting it. So again, we cannot report on what we see. So that it is what it is. Okay, now we are going to talk now about the Arizona football defense, but I do have to scold some people a little bit here. Guys, It's all fun to make fun of ASU, but at the same time, they do a good job over on the Sun Devils show. Let's be nice to them over there. I like all those guys. Let's be nice to them. Okay, now let's get to Arizona defense, Saul. You and I had a little bit of a back and forth about a top 4 defense. I thought you made an interesting point where you said if Arizona's got a top 4 defense in the Big 12, they're going to be a top 5 team in the country. So I was thinking about it yesterday. Why don't we talk about what needs to happen for that to be the case? Because again, Arizona lost a lot of players. We talked about that, but there's still a nice skeleton in play, or a nice skeleton, whatever, a nice core in place. The DBs, you got Manu, etc. But we're gonna go position by position with new players. What we need to see out of them, and as far as next level to get to that point. Let's talk first and foremost Trey Smith. Like I said, your neck of the woods. What do you need out of Trey Smith, Saul? And then I'm going to go with that.
I mean, I need him to be able to rush the passer at a high level.
Right.
That's point blank what I need. Like, again, like in the Big 12, you're going to have to hold up against the run. Let's just act like that is just a foregone conclusion, but he's got to be able to attack the quarterback from the edge at a high level.
Right.
He does that, then you're able to replace a little bit of what Upshaw, what you lost with Upshaw, and you're good to go.
A coach on the staff, I thought, made an interesting point to me last year about defensive ends. He said, there's a reason the 4 most important positions in all of sports in all of football are very simple at this point. It's the quarterback, it's the tackle, it's the defensive end, and it's the cornerbacks. This is all predicated in this day and age on being able to throw the football and to being able to get to the quarterback. So that's why when you see a defensive end, guys that are maybe not even that great, everybody's going to take a chance on them, because that's one of the hardest things to be able to do is get somebody that can get to the quarterback and get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. You hit the ball out of the park. All the other stuff is nice, Saul, but I need to be able to go into every single game knowing that this dude's going to be around the quarterback. Another point you made that I thought was interesting is where you said, it's not even so much about the sack. I need you to be in the backfield. I need you to be able to make that quarterback move around. That's what we need out of Trey Smith.
Absolutely. I think if you could put pressure, again, that's all it's about, is you just have to apply pressure. If you ask any defensive coordinator, what's more, like, obviously they would love to get sacks. That's the clear definition of quarterback pressures. But other than that, you have got to make the quarterback feel uncomfortable in that pocket. You got to force them to move around. And I think with this specific defense, literally this specific defense, if you get the quarterback to be more mobile and get out of the pocket, I think that actually bodes well for you as opposed to them, because you have 5, 6 defensive backs that could also come down into the box that are versatile enough to be able to cover running backs coming out or really attack the quarterback as he tries to be a little bit more mobile. And that's what I like to see. So if Trey Smith can put pressure on the quarterback and force them really to go to their weak side or be a little uncomfortable, that's a win.
You know what it is? And Saul, think about back to that Fiesta Bowl team under Rich Rod. What was everybody talked about, the offense, this and that. What was the great equalizer for that team? Scooby Wright living in the backfield. Every single game, it seemed like Scooby Wright was just causing problems for teams. And his absence was very notable the following season. And that's what, again, I don't need him to be Scooby Wright. I don't expect him to win the Outland Trophy. But at the same time, I also need him to be that impact dude that kind of, like somebody said, I need him to kind of be in that 7-8 sack realm, period.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Listen, if Trey Smith gets anywhere near eight sacks, hell, even more, then there's two that I'll talk about. Trey Smith is obviously one, but we're about to talk about another defensive lineman. Yeah.
Right. All right. Now let's talk about Chuba.
Yes.
The man in the middle. 6'4", 355 pounds, a very large individual. Saul, what do you need?
He's 6'4"? I thought he was like 6'1" or.
Nah, he's a little bit bigger than that. He's about 6'3", 6'4". Yeah, for sure.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I looked it up and I was just like, wow, okay. All right. Go ahead.
Large man. But what do you need to see out of Chuba, my friend? That is going to be the one. I need him to take up blockers.
Yeah, that's the key. I don't. Man, I don't know what to think about him. UC Davis, that's a different level of football. It's not the highest of, listen, it's just not the highest of levels, right? So you don't really know what you're going to get from this kid. I know he's held up in practice, which is a good sign, but you need him not to be dominant, but you need him to be able to clog up space.
Right.
he needs to be a space consumer. If he's not, we are effed.
Yes.
Royally.
Because keep in mind, what was the big difference last year with that? In that BBN, Big Bill Norton was kind of that dude that came in there and he was able to take up multiple blocks. And how many times did that allow somebody like a Jacob Manu to shoot free? And Jed Fish mentioned that multiple times in his pressers last year that, when asked about Jacob Manu, and he said, Jacob Manu, he's able to get to the quarterback. What has he been doing? And he said, we've got size up front. We've got guys that can take up blockers now. Arizona lost a lot of that. That to me is one of the concerns for this team is, do you have that bulk in the middle to be able to hold up? And Chuba is going to have to be a big part of that. Now, again, so far so good, but you have to have that be a big part of that. What say you?
6'2", 349. I told you he was closer to 6'1".
Oh, come on. They're just being nice. They're just being nice, Saul Bookman.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, again, you just have to be able to hold up at the point of attack in the Big 12.
Right.
And it would be the same thing in the SEC in the Big 10. Like, I think listen, you had to do that in the Pac-12, but I felt like there was a little bit more finesse in the Pac-12 depending on what team you were playing. I don't feel like there was a dominant run team in the Pac-12 versus what you might see in the Big 12. And especially from a schematic standpoint and the uniqueness of some of their schemes, again, you're looking at teams that do things a little differently in the Big 12, and you've got to be able to hold up against those teams. And the only way you're going to be able to hold up against those teams is by not having to rely on schemes that are kind of funky from time to time. Like, those should be surprises. They shouldn't be what you have to try and rely on.
And the next thing too, and hold on, just want to address Eric. He said a promise, not a shot, just showing the support. Yeah, Eric, you're totally cool, Eric. Just wanted to, just say those are good guys over there. They're hardworking dudes, but I appreciate the kind words. Now, when it comes to the Big 12, this is the best running back conference in the country. I don't care what anybody says. You got Ollie Gordon. You've got Dylan Edwards. You've got Arizona's dudes. I mean, heck, look at it this way. I'll give ASU a shout out here. Cam Skattebo is a good running back.
Dude, Skattebo is, to me, Skattebo is the second best running back in the conference. Yeah. Straight up.
And what's wild about it was with Skattebo's not even really talked about. So, I mean,
It's wild. If Skattebo was on any other team,
right,
like, he would be, he'd probably be in the running for like All-American. Because the kid is damn near impossible to bring down one-on-one.
Right.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen him get pulled down by one tackler.
What's going to be really interesting this year, too, is he dropped like about 15, 20 pounds because Kenny wanted to get more explosive out of him. And he still says he's going to run people over. So he could be a completely different player this year.
It could be, but it could also be a different player in a worse way.
For sure.
Because the thing about Cam Skattebo is he's just thick. He just run dudes over, and he had a little bit of wiggle to him. So yeah, I agree, Mike.
And you look across the board, though. I mean, it's everywhere. It's at Texas Tech. It's at Kansas State. It's at Kansas. I mean, you got Giddens. You got Neal. You've got all kinds of dudes who are basically, 1,500-yard rushers. So that's something that Arizona is going to have to go into every single game knowing about, because you make a great point there. You look at the running games last year in the Pac-12, the kind of teams that they were going against, you didn't really worry about most of these teams running games. So that's something, Big Chuba up front is going to be a big part of that. And then another guy too, Isaiah Johnson. Coaching staff loves Isaiah Johnson, at about 6'2", 310, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on these guys to be able to make that, to be able to plug up the middle. We'll see what happens, because again, that's my one concern on the defense. I feel pretty good about everything else, Saul.
Yeah, I'm the same way. The defensive line is the one that I'm just really, really, really gonna pray and hope that they can hold up throughout the season and be able to do what this. Listen, it's not about can they hold up enough for us to win games. We're past that, right? It's can they play at a slightly above average level in order for all the other star pieces to take advantage of their skills and their talent. If that can happen, this team will find itself in the top half of the Big 12 defensive rankings for sure. If it doesn't happen, then you're looking at a team, in my opinion, right now, if I had to guess, which one is Arizona going to be? Are they going to be consistent and just solid, or are they going to be wildly erratic all over the place? Like, I could see a scenario where Arizona gave up, 150, 200 yards rushing in a game, but also got 3 picks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I could see that because they have so much talent in the secondary. But you're hoping that you get those 3 picks, but you're also limiting them in the rushing game. And if that could happen, then I think you're in play.
All right, Owen Goss. I know we sound like a broken record, but every single practice, when we were allowed to report on it, every single game, Owen Goss just looks different. He is you know what? I also thought, remember Tremaine Bondurant here?
Yeah.
That to me is kind of, I need somebody that is a turnover forcer, somebody that is cataclysmic. That is kind of what I'm looking for. A Martell Irby, Tremaine Bondurant role. And he's not going to, I don't know if he's going to start, but Akina's made the point time and time again, this dude is going to be playing more snaps than he's not. And that would be a heck of a find, especially too with this offseason. Everybody's saying you lost Price Sock. Obviously, this is obviously not a cornerback. We'll get to another cornerback in a second. But overall, if you got Owen Goss in there, you know, it's and he can make some plays. I think that's pretty good.
I think listen, to pick up anybody from the Ivy League is pretty good. Colgate's in the Ivy League, right?
Is it Colonial or is it Ivy League?
I thought Colgate is in the Ivy League. Is it not Ivy League?
I think it's Colonial.
They're the Patriot.
Oh, they're in the Patriot League. But are they in? No. So are those schools not considered Ivy League schools, like academically? I always. Oh, maybe I'm thinking Cornell.
Cornell.
A hidden Ivy, a little Ivy, not. Oh, it's like Pluto, like kind of a planet, but not really a planet. Oh, okay. All right. So there you go. Hey.
Right. Sounds like
The
a
more
rap.
you know, Mike. Say that again.
The latest diss track from Lil Ivy.
No. Anyway.
Wait, how does it go?
What?
How does the song go?
Oh, Lil Ivy. I don't know. I was just asking. They said it dropped yesterday and I was just.
I think Owen Goss is going to have a tremendous impact on this team for sure. His heat-seeking missileness is, if that's even a thing. I think that's gonna disrupt a lot of things, and I think people are going to be surprised when they get their head knocked off by trying to set up a block and seeing a guy that doesn't appear to be a gigantic kid just come over and obliterate them. Like that's what he's all about. He wants to come over, he wants to make plays, he wants to force fumbles, and he's got tremendous instinct. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in the Big 12. But again, he's got a battle on his hands to try and get some playing time because he's got so many dudes that are surrounding him that are high level.
All right, now we got 3 cornerbacks here. 2 of them are returning. Your guy Traden Stukes. Then you've also got obviously Takario Davis, Marquise Groves Killebrew is going to be that other dude. Listen, he's an interesting story. Was committed to Georgia, was at Texas A&M, and then Louisville. So he's been all over the place. But to Arizona's credit, and he, for a couple years, he said, "I'm back. Something doesn't feel right, coach. Something doesn't feel right," and he wasn't able to get on the field. He got to Arizona, and they found out that he had a hernia. So they operated on it. They took care of it. And I'll tell you one thing. I've watched Duane Akina for about 30 years now. When you watch when you watch Akina, who is essentially the GOAT of all defensive backs coaches, when he really coaches somebody hard, he has high expectations for them. He has very high expectations for him. I remember watching Chris McAllister one time I was able to go to Camp Cochise, and he was on Chris McAllister like Chris McAllister was the worst DB on the team. And he always says that Chris McAllister was the best DB he ever coached. And it's kind of that thing where you deal with people and they're like, don't worry about me if I'm getting on you. Worry about me if I start withdrawing from you, because then I see something that I can't really get. When it comes to Marquise Groves Killebrew, he is very much on him. This is a good thing.
I think Shane would tell you, just being around this office, that's the exact same thing that happens with me. You don't have to worry about it if I'm talking to you, but if I stop talking to you, that's probably not a good sign. I love that. You got to challenge the good players. You got to challenge the great players because they want to be challenged. They love the challenge. And I think when you're talking about, Killebrew, I don't know what to expect from him. He's another wild card that you just don't know what you're going to get from him. We can see things in practice, and that's all well and good. But when you're talking about play after play, scheme, the opposing team wanting to go away from Takario on a different play and wanting to target you because they think you might be easy pickings. How do you hold up against that? You know what I mean? If you hold up well, guess what? Now you have a solid, secondary, and you're forcing them to have to run and be kind of one-dimensional, and then you have the advantage at that point. But I don't know what to expect from him. He's another wild card. But the good thing about him is I don't worry so much about what he's going to be able to provide because they do have depth at that secondary level. I'm not too concerned.
Yes. Now, Eric Paz, the great Eric Paz, one of my favorite people, says, how many turnovers from the 6 DBs over the season is the number you would be happy with? I think I think like Saul, that most of them will come from them. I just need it. I know it when I see it, to be honest with you. I don't know what my number is. Saul, maybe you have a number, but I need impactful plays. I need being around the football. I need when people having that Brandon Sanders approach that when you're going over the middle, you better be careful there. You better that I'll know it when I see it. Is it a dominant unit? I don't know that I necessarily have a turnover number. What say you?
That's a good question. I would say this. I think if whether it's high or low, I don't know, but I think 12.
Okay.
12 combined, either interceptions or forced fumbles. I think that's a good season. I think.
I would agree.
I don't know how many they had last year, but I would say 12 from the secondary alone.
Yeah.
Just the secondary. We're not talking about linebackers or defensive linemen, just the secondary.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, the fact that, and I'm going to let you in on a little bit of something that I got the go ahead to run with. You are going to see times this year where you have 6 DBs on the field. I'm not saying how they're going to do it. I have no clue how they're going to do it, but you are going to see times when all 6 of those DBs are on the field, and they're excited to see what that can do. Now, I'm going to let you in on another thing that I found out as well. You're going to have a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot, like a majority of the time, 5 DBs on the field. That's what Akina wants to do. And he's got to figure out exactly what he wants to do with these guys. But 5, 6 DBs, he feels very comfortable about that. And it's like we talked about yesterday, Saul. A lot of these dudes are bigger dudes. Owen Goss, bigger guy as far as being strong and, lift weights along with Gunner, obviously, Genesis Smith, we talked about. I think it can work. I really do.
Are we going 4-2-5 or are we going 3-3-5 on that?
I think that there's going to be a lot of 4-2-5. I think 4-2-5 is going to obviously be your base package, but then I think you're going to see some looks where you basically got 3 down linemen at times if they can make it work, and then you got Jacob Manu and you got 6 DBs out there. I think it's going to be 7.
No, 4 down linemen, 1 linebacker, and then the rest of 6 DBs.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be he's got a lot to play with, and that's what I like about him. He's got a lot to play with there. So I
don't want to see 3-3. I don't want to see 3-3-5
either. Unless
I saw too much of that in the Rich Rod era. I don't want to see it again.
And it is weird. We have like survivors. It's weird about the Rich Rod era.
Survivor's guilt? Is that what you're going to say?
Survivor's guilt, but survivor's something. Because in the Rich Rod era, Rich Rod won a lot of games, but man, every single time, like you would stand on the field and you're like, whoa, this dude looks, that team's defensive line and linebackers looks a lot different than our defensive line and linebackers. I never really liked that. So yes, we will tread accordingly on that one. Now, looking at this, Saul Bookman, Arizona's got a lot of games. We're going to be
real quick. I want to address something. LJ, I can't see that shit. Yeah, Wombology. He said, that's how we shut down Oklahoma's pass towards the end. No, listen, I'm cool if you go 3-3-5, but it can't be your base scheme.
Right.
Like, I don't want to see that. Like, if you switch it up, cool. Give a different look. I'm fine with that. And yes, if by doing that, you're going to throw the offense off just as much as they're trying to throw you off. But if that's your core, that's your basic staple, I'm not a fan. So
yeah, no, I would agree.
That's my opinion. That doesn't mean I'm right.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, but it doesn't mean you're wrong, though, either, Saul. We will find out over time. Now, when it comes to this schedule, we are going to be at the Kansas State game. This is true, Saul.
This is true.
Okay, now everybody's talking about Kansas State and Utah, and rightfully so. Because listen, there's a myriad of different possibilities. If Arizona wins both those games, then guess what? You're going to be in the top 5 to 6 in the country at that time. And we're talking about the college football playoffs. If Arizona goes 1-1, I think we're kind of where we are, which is not a bad thing. If Arizona loses both those games, then, you got to start picking up some games elsewhere. But we talked about that a lot. When you look at this schedule, what are the trap games? What are the games you're like, that one worries me a little bit. I know that we're going to have one of the same, but I also know that at the same time, there's a couple other ones that I'm looking at and I'm like, all right, don't really want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. Because again, some of these teams, you might not look at them as being ranked, but they can definitely beat Arizona, and they've got some of the possibilities of being able to do that. That is what
I agree. Here, let's take a look at the schedule. Let's see what games I would be concerned about. This sounds stupid because BYU is picked to finish last in the conference, but at BYU, I feel like is always kind of like a shady kind of game.
Right.
West Virginia at home could be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Because West Virginia is kind of a sleeper pick for a lot of people. And then I don't know what to expect out of TCU. I don't expect big things, but on the road towards the end of the season, depending on what you have going on and what's on the line, it could be a trap game of sorts if you got a lot on the line. And I could see that being a kind of a difficult game. Plus, they don't even know if they're playing on the 23rd or the 24th that day. So I don't know. So it's going to be, I think those are Colorado. Listen, we're going to beat the shit out of Colorado.
Nice. Yes. Show
just
clip.
Straight up. That's for you, Buffs fans.
Show clip.
Come to the old Pueblo. You're going to leave with a Winnebago broken down. I promise you that.
Here, all the Twitter yapping. You got to come to Tucson for that one. I like that very much there, Saul. Also,
what did Michael Jordan used to say? He said, yeah, it's all well and good that they beat us this game or they beat us that game, but they all got to come through Chicago.
You got to come through Tucson, my man. I love it.
Glenn, Tucson.
Glenn, one of the coolest ASU people out there. Say it with your chest, Saul. No, he did say it with his chest. It was very robust. It was very impressive. Okay, now I got a couple games. TCU to me is an interesting one because you have the how do I put this? It's right before the ASU game. I don't know exactly what to expect. I think you hit the nail on the head with that because keep in mind, this is a team that's a year removed from the national championship game. Sonny Dykes is a good coach. I got a lot of respect for what he's been able to do, but that game worries me a little bit just because it's right before the ASU game. And then obviously, I don't know if it's a trap game or not because everybody should know about it, but UCF. I mean,
yeah, the space. I don't consider that a sleeper pick because I just think that that's going to be a tough game no matter what. And if UCF won that game, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
so I don't feel like they're so vastly an inferior team that we should be on upset alert kind of thing. I think that they have all the ability to be able to beat anybody in the conference.
And that's why I think it's very important to get one of those two games on the road to start the season, Kansas State or Utah, because here's the thing. If you win one of those games, I think you have the capability to yourself a little bit of a margin for error. But in my opinion, if the goal is the college football playoffs and you lose both of those games, you don't have much margin for error at that point going on. Now, granted, only one of those games is a conference game. I get it. But you don't have a ton of margin for error at that point. That's why I think it's very important to steal one of those games, whether it's Kansas State or Utah. Don't care. Got to get one of them.
I'm sorry. I was distracted by the little conversation going on over here. Say that again.
Oh, what's going on? Fill us in.
No. I think Shane just told Totri what I just said about CU Buffs. So.
Oh yeah, but no, that's very good. Yes.
Totri loves his Colorado slander, so I just figured
yeah,
happy to hear that.
Colorado slander, exactly. So it's a lot of good stuff. But what were we talking about? That's why to me it's just imperative, Saul, that you got to steal one of those two games. Yes. Don't care which one, you got to steal one of them because then if I play against UCF, then I want to win the game, but it doesn't totally derail my season. But if you got both those, you basically, you come close to needing to win out if you want to get in the college football playoffs.
Oh yeah, no, you lose both those, you definitely have to win out at that point. Like you have no margin for error whatsoever. So, or at least find yourself, you got to get into the Big 12 championship game somehow, some way. Right. And that's probably going to mean that you have to listen, you have one, if you lost both of those games, fortunately for us, that's only one conference game that you dropped out of the two. Yeah, that would be Utah, and so that's it because K-State doesn't count. So you might be okay because if you get into the Big 12 championship game and you win the Big 12 championship game, then that's an automatic bid, and you're all good to go. But I agree with you; they got to take one, if not both. I think if they take both, then you give yourself a lot of room for error in the last 8 games of the season after that. And I like my chances, going 6-2 feels like that should easily be done.
And honestly, if you have to drop one of those games, even though we're going to be at Kansas State, and I would prefer to have them win because I think that doesn't count as a conference game. So I would like to, I need to get in the Big 12 championship game. So if you had to drop one of those two, I would rather drop Kansas State than drop Utah, just for obvious reasons. Yes, Saul, I actually had somebody DM me about this about 10 minutes ago. That hat is catching fire. Talk about the hat.
Oh yeah. I think I got it off of Lids. It's a big league chew series hat, cotton candy curveball.
Yeah. Oh no, it looks good. How much did you drop on that? Over $400 or $500?
Jesus, no, man. I don't spend anything more than maybe 35 on it.
Okay. Now, here's the question. Whose hat is cooler?
Mike, I love the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is goated, but it is not better than this hat.
All right. You know what? That leads me to my read. Circle K, my friends. Now, listen, you might say Saul Bookman. He just said that his hat is better than mine. Saul Bookman is right about almost everything. Guess what? Saul is wrong on this one. This Inner Circle hat, I can guarantee you Shane Diefenbach would prefer to wear this hat than any other hat. This is true, Shane Diefenbach. You don't even need to respond because you know that I'm right. But either way, check it out. Inner Circle, join the Inner Circle for free, like Saul Bookman, like Shane Diefenbach, like the great Jacob Franklin, like merely Mike Luke. On the Circle K app today, terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Saul Bookman, when was the last time you went to Circle K? Be honest, today or no?
This morning, I got gas this morning. I also ate a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant.
Okay. Again, it's very, very good stuff. Check it out, Circle K, and one other thing. Game time. Now, maybe you're like Shane Diefenbach and you're cruising around the world this past couple weeks, and you're like, man, I'd really like to go to some sporting events that aren't just the Olympics. I mean, come on, man. And you're saying to yourself, how could I get these tickets? Guess what? Game Time says, Shane Diefenbach, come to us. Give us your money. We will help you out in a way that nobody else can. Game Time, my friends, all kinds of really, really good stuff. Here's the deal with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. PHNX for $20 or $20 off. Saul, you have used Game Time before, correct?
I have used Game Time. I love Game Time. It's the best way to buy tickets. I actually bought my first 2 tickets of the season already. New Mexico game. I'll be sitting in the corner of the end zone. I'm ready to go. And I spent $50 for the 2 tickets.
Exactly.
So
now
I'm
listen,
excited.
If it's good enough for the boss, the GM, it's good enough for everybody out there. Check it out. Game Time, my friends. Game Time. Now, we got something we're going to get to here in a little bit of a little second. But first, I think Glenn says, I think the Big 12 championship game will feature a 3 or 4 loss team. Big 12 might eat itself. What do you say about that, Saul?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
3 losses seems like it almost feels like it's a foregone conclusion that it'll be a 3-loss team in the Big 12 championship game. Now, whether both teams have 3 or 4 losses, I don't know, but I know one of them will for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important. Here's what I need from Arizona, because obviously you got the automatic qualifier. I want to win the Big 12. I mean, again, I know that it's the first year. I want to win the Big 12. I think that there's reasonable expectations to win the Big 12. I put them down. We will find that out. You want to get the auto bid like Big 12 Bobby just said. Also, Glenn taking a cheap shot at me. Saul can get that hat dragged on dirt, and I'll still take his hat. Mike's hat was found at a retirement home. No, it was not found at a retirement home. It was given to me by a Khalil trucker who is a very good friend of the show. We'll not take any slander from that. Saul, you're laughing. This is true.
That was pretty funny. I thought I was getting dragged at first until I realized, at the end I wasn't.
No. Glenn enjoyed making fun of me, but I generally deserve all of it. Okay, now we're going to switch over now to a little bit of Arizona basketball. We got a player coming on here. We got a player that's going to be visiting the U of A here, and Tommy Lloyd. It's an interesting situation. Tommy Lloyd met him, coaching him on on the U18 team, I believe. Nick Khamenia, out of Harvard Westlake in Los Angeles, top 30 player, combo wing. If we can bring Shane, if you get a moment, if we could play some of these clips, I want to get the free throw expertise that is Saul Bookman's take on what he's seeing here.
Hey, listen, this kid is an all-around player, solid, big. he's got a nice game, all around game too. He can hit the midi, a little fadeaway. He can shoot the three from the perimeter. He can take it to the rack. Like I really like what this kid might be able to bring. The fact that he's playing out in LA, that means he's not going up against any cupcake competition. Like this is a legit player and somebody that everybody should have an eye on because he's got a lot of versatility. He's continuing to grow into his body. And I just feel like his skill set all the way around is a very kind of feels like a European type of player and skill set, which is what Tommy Lloyd loves. He loves these guys that just have a lot of versatility, ball handling. You see that right there. Athleticism. I mean, like the kid is just really, really good.
And you watch him too. I think what's interesting about guys like that too is that he moves at his own pace, which I always like. He doesn't look like he's ever in a hurry. I mean, you look at him and he might not be just blowing right by you, but he gets to basically wherever he wants on the court. This is probably going to be an Arizona and a Gonzaga type situation. By the way, does this player not look like a Gonzaga type guy?
Yeah, so Gonzaga right here. Yeah. This guy's so Gonzaga. I like guys that don't speed themselves up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people... There's been plenty of guys in the league that don't speed themselves up, but Luka really just has made it so obvious that you don't have to play crazy athletic basketball in order to be an elite basketball player. And this kid, I think he has way more physical ability than Luka for sure. But in terms of the skill set and growing into the game, I think he's getting there. I just think the shot making right there is the thing that you're going to look at the most and say, yeah, this kid definitely can bring it for sure. And Glenn Nugent hits it right on the head for sure.
Like that.
Mike Dunleavy vibes Jr. for sure.
Mike Dunleavy vibes, still bothered by that 0-1 performance against Arizona, but Mike Dunleavy, you take Mike Dunleavy every day of the week. Now Joseph says, wasn't Chet from Harvard Westlake? No, he was not. I don't know where he's from, but he was not from Harvard Westlake. He wasn't a West Coast kid. But this is somebody too, and Tommy Lloyd is very, very, Tommy Lloyd is very picky on who he offers. That's always been something. I think with Sean Miller, it was really easy to cover recruiting because Sean Miller would offer basically 12 5-star kids, and then he would figure out which ones he could get. Tommy Lloyd is very, very discerning on who he chooses. And one time he was talking about too, especially when you're dealing with international players, things that maybe we don't even think about, they do. Like if you're getting a player from, somewhere in Eastern Europe or whatever, and they might be from an area that does not get along with another player's area that's on the team. Those are all the kind of things that you have to take in. This is very much of a chess, not checkers thing when you're dealing with players that are overseas, international, or just in general. He's very discerning when it comes to that, Saul.
Oh, I never even thought about that. So you mean to tell me that like maybe he would not, let's just say you had a Russian player and a Ukrainian player, he would not go after one of the two just because the other one is already on the roster?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not speaking for him there, but that's what I'm talking about though. Like I'll give you an example, like Stojakovic. That I believe is at Stanford now or UCLA. I can't remember, but there were some, just some home country issues with some other, people. Not that these kids didn't like each other or anything, but, obviously you just come from different areas where there's a little bit of friction and whatnot.
There's optics behind it for sure.
For sure. But that always stuck with me, what he said about that, that kind of being the case. So you got to keep that in mind there. But either way, we would very much like Nick Khamenia. The 2025 class, in my opinion, this needs to be a good domestic high school class because look at the guys we've been talking about. You've been talking about a Koa Pete. You've been talking about a Braden Burries. You've been talking about a Mikkel Brown. Now you're talking about a Nick Khamenia. You're also a Xavion Staten, who we've talked about before. You got 5 or 6 guys there that, play a bunch of different positions. I need a point guard, and I'd love to get a couple of those guys, Saul.
Yeah, I want ball handlers. I want shot makers. I want guys that can play defense at a high level. I think everybody that they're going after, I think they present a little bit of both and the ability to be developed at a high level. And I think that's the other thing about Tommy is that he doesn't necessarily look at it for what's good for the program. He also looks at it from a standpoint of how much room do they have left to grow and how good are they right now? And because I think Tommy Lloyd has a lot of confidence in his ability to be able to develop players at a high level, and he's shown that already. That's what I think. Because I don't think Tommy's the type of guy that looks at a player and thinks he's maxed out, so let's go ahead and get him because he's just a good player. I think when he looks at a Trey Townsend, he's like, he's got room to grow. I think we can make him even better than he is. I think when he looks at a Kashad Johnson, same thing. When he looks at even why am I forgetting my guy's name? Caleb Love.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he looks at him and says, this is what you are. This is what you can be. This is where we're going to try and get you to go. And that's the process.
Now, I get people to ask me this all the time. I'd love to be wrong on this. I do not expect Tunde to come to the U of A. I believe that Tunde is likely going to be going to the highest bidder. That's not going to be Arizona. And again, I want to say this. I have no problem with kids going to the highest bidder. I feel that I need to say this once a week. I have no problem. I am not putting a kid down for that because, listen, you can get generational money. You get generational money. Arizona's still in it, but Arizona does not expect to get him. How about that?
Mike, if you were a recruit and I said, and you got offers, you ready for this? You got offers to go to ASU, CU, or Duke. What do you think the ultimate reason you would decide to go to whatever school would be?
At this stage in the game, two things. How much money are you going to pay me right now? And can you get me to the NBA? Those two things, period. That's all I care about. Money.
Okay. That's kind of my point.
Yeah, I have no qualms with that. So, again, it's not a diss, but I don't expect Tunde to come here. But either way, there's a lot of 2025 kids that Arizona is in on. Now, Christopher,
you remember somebody asking me in the chat, like, would I ever consider being the ASU AD? I'm like, you want to pay me $1 million a year? Hell yeah, I will.
Exactly, man.
I'm not even thinking twice. Like, bye.
Would you also maybe be a mole like Antonio Pierce and destroy the program from within?
You could, but then you probably remain unemployed for the rest of your life. So you better make a nice hefty chunk of change.
You get that money while you can, man. It's tomorrow's.
Or you go to the NFL and everything's okay.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, become the Raiders head coach. That'll work.
Exactly. Now, Christopher says Circle K giving that generational money to Mike the way he reps them. I told you my story the other day about Circle K when I went in there with this, the Inner Circle hat. Oh, I didn't tell you this. Oh, this is great. So anyways, I went in there. I went into my favorite Circle K on 6th Street and I had my Inner Circle hat on. And I said to the lady right there, I said, very nice Inner Circle shirt you have. And then she just looked and she's like, okay, thanks. And then I said, notice this. And then she looks and she says, do you work at Circle K? And I said, I wish. And then she offered me an application. So I was given an application to Circle K that is currently at my house. Now, I don't envision myself applying for a job at Circle K, but it was pretty cool, though, that I was given an application just by wearing this hat.
I'm just glad she didn't give you her shirt.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Now, let's see here. All right. Let's get to Mount Krivas here. I got to ask you some questions about Mo Krivas.
I'm here for it.
Okay. There is a belief amongst people that would know that Mo Krivas will be in the NBA in a year. I'm going to make the case for you, and I'm going to get to see what you think. First of all, he's actually a really good three-point shooter. He wasn't able to show that this past year, but if you watch him in practice, he can nail 7, 8, 9 of them in a row. His back to the basket game is pretty good. He is never going to be a great athlete, but he has gotten stronger. Again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling people out there, what do you buy into any of this thought there, Saul Bookman?
Not based off of last year.
Right.
Not based off of last year. No. Too weak down low, not strong enough up top, not versatile enough around away from the basket. Right. Didn't show much of that at all. Didn't show much of a mid-range game. Didn't show much of an outside game. Got pushed off the block way too many times. Like, no, not even a little bit. Now, if you're telling me he improved in all those areas, he's way more efficient around the basket, doesn't hesitate nearly as much, uses his length to his advantage, and is able to add a mid-range and even an outside shot to that, in addition to being a little bit more agile and flexible and stronger at the point of attack on defense, then absolutely. I think he's a top 25 NBA prospect, but that's a lot of things that he had to fix in the course of, 8 months. I don't know.
My back and forth with this basically was, you mean you're talking about after the junior year, correct? And it's like, no, after the sophomore year. And I said, well, because after the junior year, I could see it. You got 2 years to get stronger, because I'm kind of with you on that. And, Joseph has said that Mike is sleeping so hard on Krivas. It's wild. I think Krivas is good. I get what they did, but man, that's a lot of improvement to make over a very, very short amount of time. That's where I'm at.
I will say this, though. We saw it with Christian Coloco and Tommy Lloyd, where Christian Coloco had no business even thinking about the NBA the year before he actually went to the NBA, and his development over the course of the offseason to really accentuate the things that he was really good at. And that's the thing. That's the biggest thing that I preach when if you're looking at a player that wants to go to the NBA, dude, you better be elite at least one or two skill sets before you even think about it. Because if you're average at all of them, you're not going to make it. Right. You're just not. Right. Like, so you got to be the master of some type of skill, not the jack of all trades. And so when you're looking at Krivas, what is the one thing that you look at with Krivas right now at this point and you think 1,000,000% that's NBA ready right now?
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that there is anything.
I would agree with that. And I guess
so. What is the one thing that he worked on in the offseason to get him that one or two skill sets that are elite? Because that's the only way you're going to stick around while you learn all the other skills.
Because again, I've seen a lot of players that I'll use and they stick around, and it's a bad example, but I was going to say, like you said, you got to have something. What do you hang your hat on? Now, if he comes out here and if he's shooting 4.5 threes per game and he's raining them at 39%, all of a sudden you've got something that you can really hang your hat on. But at 7'3", but got to see it. I still think it's after the junior year, but we will see. Now, it was asked earlier, Christopher, is this a force out Ballo if he underperforms? No, not at all. They love Krivas. They have huge expectations for Krivas, and they fully expect Tobe Awaka to be the starting center the following year. Again, these guys are smarter than me, so we will find it out. I'm just throwing that one out there. We'll see.
He was a decent performer last year, considering he had so many areas that he can improve.
Right.
Which I think is a good thing. I think that's promising. And I think that's what Tommy Lloyd looks at and says, yeah, I think we can get this guy to where he needs to go. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but there's a lot of work that needed to be done.
Now, do we have that Discord read from, not Discord, but a diehard read from Eric Ruby? Because I would like to play this as kind of the disclaimer. But either way, there is no better time to become a PHNX diehard. You're looking around and you're saying, man, Arizona football here, Arizona basketball right around the corner, all kinds of good stuff going on, a discount on merch as well. And let's see here. Oh, access to Anthony Gimino's writing. That guy is back. We very much like him as well. And it would bring a smile to Saul Bookman's face. This is true, Saul Bookman.
This is absolutely true. You should become a diehard. It's a no-brainer.
Become a PHNX diehard. It is a no-brainer, my friends. Check it out. Again, you will thank me later on this one. Now, before we sign off, Saul, I saw something the other day that I might bring, if I had the money, I would probably bring as a present to your meat party. Now,
tell me what that is, Mike.
All right, we've got a picture. What do you think about this chair, Saul Bookman?
It is hideous.
Now, you might say it's hideous. This is in the very front of Lazy Boy.
No, it's not. I might say it. I did say it.
Saul, if you look, it has been downgraded to $1,445. Does that change your opinion on it?
No, that's even worse.
Okay. So if I offered you this chair for free at the meat party, you would not take it?
No, I would not take it at all.
What about your wife? Would she be interested in this?
No, my wife would hate that thing.
All right. But Glenn brings me to my next point. That chair matches your outfit.
No, it does not.
Yeah, put it back up again. It does. It does. It does. I thought the same thing. Pull it back up one more time, Shane. Saul.
In what world does that match my outfit?
There's not a single shade of blue that matches what Saul's wearing on that chair.
Look at the blue. Look at the blue, the lower blue, right next to the middle part, under the cushion. That's a light blue. That light blue. That's just like Saul. And you got the white as well. All right, Saul. So if I bring that, you don't want it, is what you're saying.
1,000,000% I don't want it. Now, if you paid for it and you want me to keep it in my house, I can entertain that thought, but that is just not going to happen.
All right. Now, Big 12 Bobby says, I thought the chair was a zoom in on Saul. That is funny. That is funny. But anyway, all right, Saul. Signing off for today. But
wait, actually, Mike, I do have one more thing for you. I just sent it in Wildcats assignments, and I hope Shane is able to bring it up. But I have been asked off the record whether or not I have any video of me playing basketball, and I do have one little video, and I have more, but this is somebody had sent me this from way back in the day, and that was basically it. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I did actually play basketball back in the day. I was decent. I was okay. There you go.
Oh, Saul, look at that. Oh, you can definitely tell Saul's a 3-point specialist. You can tell that.
You know, it's so funny. Every time I see that, I'm like, that guy's way taller than I am.
Look at that form.
Yeah. I mean, I had pretty decent form back in
It
the
also
day.
looks like you got decent elevation on your shot.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I was all right. I was okay.
I'm again, you're in the record books. You got to be in the record books. We've talked about retiring your jersey at some point. This has got to happen.
Yeah, it's a story for another day.
All right. My friend, though, the boss, Saul Bookman, very much appreciate you as always. I will be seeing you Sunday. And now, Shane Diefenbach.
I can't wait. I'm seriously excited. I got a lot of stuff going on. I got 10 racks of ribs. Yeah. I've got all the chicken you could possibly think of eating, chicken wings, and then I got some brisket. And I also got some Cajun birds and boudin balls that I got shipped from my boy, Raging Cajun out there in Louisiana. We used to serve together in the military. He sent me a whole kind of a goodie basket, and yeah, he's my boy.
All right, the meat party. We'll have full updates. Shane Diefenbach's going to be there. This is true, Shane.
This is true.
All right. On that note, though, for the boss, Saul Bookman, for the great Shane Diefenbach, still working on that. I am merely Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.